If you woke up this morning and you saw the score of the Thursday night football matchup, it didn't do justice to it. The Commanders got their asses kicked last night by the Green Bay Packers. This was a game that at one point was 27-10, and even then it felt like it could have been worse. The Packers came out and, to me, looked like the most dominant team in the NFC. They looked like the most dominant team in the NFL. Right now, I'm not sure there's a better team on both sides of the ball because we saw Jordan Love take his shots downfield. We saw Jordan Love in this offense working, even though they were shorthanded for much of the game at the wide receiver position. But even more importantly than that, to me, Caroline, we saw that defense just absolutely crush the Commanders. The Commanders looked like a bad football team taking on a Packers defense that was there for it.
Yeah, I mean, final score 27-18, but there were times where it felt like it was 47-8. Like that final score is not indicative of how dominant the Packers were. It was like kind of a garbage time touchdown from the Commanders at the end. But it is fascinating to me, Fitz. Look, the Packers over the last couple of years haven't had a bad defense, but it wasn't a defense that I felt like I could wake up on any Monday after a Packers game on Sunday and say, man, that is a nasty unit. But what we saw last night and what we saw week 1 against the Detroit Lions, nasty. That defense was swarming around everywhere. It was up front. I mean, Jayden Daniels was under duress all game long. That was the kind of debilitating kind of, take the wind out of your sails kind of performance that I don't think that we have seen from the Washington Commanders since Jayden Daniels got into Washington. Jayden Daniels couldn't do anything, and that is a guy that has scramble ability and ability to extend plays probably better than a majority of quarterbacks in the NFL. It's like Lamar Jackson, it's Josh Allen, and it's Jayden Daniels. Just their kind of mobility and their ability to make something out of nothing. I mean, Jayden Daniels got sacked 4 times last night. Micah Parsons, even if it didn't pop off the page, I believe, I don't have the box score in front of me, but I believe he notched a half a sack last night. Again, if we're going to go back to box score scouting, that doesn't do his performance last night justice. Micah Parsons was everywhere. He was constantly making things difficult for Jayden Daniels. And even in the secondary as well, Fitz, we look at Keyshawn Nixon, who I think is not a household name in the slightest, unless you're a Green Bay Packers fan. And you think that Packers fans have been incredibly frustrated with the secondary and with the production of Keyshawn Nixon, over his tenure in Green Bay. He had 5 pass breakups last night. 5 pass breakups. I mean, they couldn't get the run game going. They couldn't get the pass game going. That Washington Commanders offense couldn't do anything. There was one point in the game, Fitzy, where Tucker Kraft, which hot new bombshell, has entered the villa. Where did he come from? There was a point in the game last night where Tucker Kraft himself had more yards than the Washington Commanders did as an entire team. That is all that you need to know about the full and complete performance that we saw from the Green Bay Packers.
Keyshawn Nixon, the 5 passes defended last night. No corner in the NFL had 5 passes defended in a single game last season. So that shows you how good that is. And you mentioned the stat sheet on Micah Parsons. The most important stat, if you guys want to go into a little bit more than just sacks, that I think is important, Micah Parsons was credited with 8 quarterback hurries last night, including 6 in the second half. 8. When you start talking about 8 times that I know we're going to make this about the Cowboys constantly, but this isn't about the Cowboys. This is about the fact that through and through, the Packers defense now with Micah Parsons, it was already pretty good. Now with Micah Parsons, it just looks like nobody knows what the hell to do. And that includes the Commanders. I'm left to wonder, and this is what happens in week 2, right? Like week 2 gives us a little bit more work, right? Gives a little bit more body of evidence, and we can make more decisions from that. We decided that the Lions just looked like they are a work in progress with new coordinators on both sides of the ball. What if the Lions just happen to take on the most dominant team in the NFL? After 1 week, now one and a half weeks, if you want to call it that, that to me looks like the Green Bay Packers. I think maybe we need to start couching our conversation a little bit based on what we saw week 1, because if we're being honest, the Packers took on a Lions team that's really good on, or I should say the Lions, they beat the Lions, who we expect to be really good on both sides of the ball. The Commanders beat a Giants team that might just turn out to suck. So what we saw last night was just sheer and utter domination from 2, we think, playoff caliber football teams. But if anything, I think it cemented 2 narratives. It cemented the narratives that maybe the Commanders have some work to do and they're not going to necessarily pick right up where they left off. And maybe the Packers are just that damn good. I'll give you one other important thing, Caroline, and that to me is Jordan Love. And I'll credit Kirk Herbstreit, said this at the end of the broadcast last night. After the broadcast, he was talking about the game. a wild number to me. Jordan Love this year has 4 incompletions all season when he's not pressured. So what does that tell us? That tells us that pre-snap, if you're not getting after Jordan Love, pre-snap, he's seeing it, he's dissecting it, and he's beating it. That tells you that Matt LaFleur has done a beautiful job as a coach, really getting his quarterback prepared. That offense is doing a great job getting their quarterback prepared. And it tells you that Jordan Love is playing with confidence. He's playing with decision-making that is just absolutely beating defenses. The quick film on Jordan Love is going to tell everybody, if you do not start to mix up what you are doing pre-snap, if you cannot disguise your coverages, you're going to get sliced and diced by now the second time this year I'm saying this, a surgical passer. Jordan Love, even though he was without his, I would say his primary wide receiver, Jayden Reed broke his collarbone out 6 to 8 weeks, right? They lose Jayden Reed early in this game. Doesn't matter. I mean, they are the true epitome of next man up, and they're absolutely hard to stop if Jordan Love continues to play with this level of efficiency.
100%. And I think we've all been kind of waiting. Would Jordan Love take that next step forward? Because Jordan Love has never been by any means a liability for this team, but Jordan Love has not made that next step, at least prior to this season, hasn't made that next step to be, okay, this is a guy that you can trust, that if none else is working, he can put the team on his shoulders. And he takes a special kind of quarterback to do that. And I don't know if he's officially graduated into that tier, but at least in what we've seen through 2 weeks, it makes me feel incredibly optimistic that he can kind of make that leap. And I think also not just with his arm, but what he can do with his legs as well. But we saw more willingness for Jordan Love to carry the rock himself, especially in 3rd and short situations. And let's not forget that Jordan Love truck in the first quarter didn't even lower his shoulder, just went mano on the sideline. Like, if you are a general manager or a coach or a Green Bay Packer fan, you're like, Jordan, don't do that, please. We have 15 games left on the schedule and we need you to make a run in the playoffs. But it was kind of awesome to watch, watching at home. So yes, I think that we're seeing Jordan Love just continue to make those next steps forward, and his ability to kind of just tear up and slice and dice apart a Dan Quinn-led defense that I think we were just talking a couple days ago about how it might be kind of an underrated unit over there in Washington. But if it was Dan Quinn, a defensive guy, versus Matt LaFleur, an offensive guy, I mean, Matt LaFleur won that battle handedly. Then it begs the question too, to me, Fitzy. Yeah, go ahead if you have thought on that.
No, go.
It begs the question to me, Jordan Love looking how he's looked in 2 weeks. And, this receiving unit, obviously, like you mentioned, Reed goes down with that collarbone injury, but the defense, how they look. Josh Jacobs, obviously, how he looked. I know that the Green Bay Packers do not have the same amount of star power as the Philadelphia Eagles. Josh Jacobs is not Saquon Barkley, and they don't have an A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith in the receiving core. But if you take the star power out of it and the name recognition away from it, are the Green Bay Packers and their production and their dominance and what we've seen in 2 performances so far, are they a Philadelphia Eagles-esque kind of complete team?
I think that's the reason, yes, because complementary football. Like the stupid thing we hear cliched said by coaches all the time. The Packers are built in a complementary football way. And to your point, I think one of the most interesting things that's going to happen over the course of the season, let me be clear, we stat chase. So that means guys that put up huge numbers are always what we talk about for MVP. I mean, we're 2 weeks in. You can't tell me that Jordan Love isn't capable of winning an MVP if he keeps playing at this level. I mean, I know that we look at some of the video game numbers and we want to chase video game numbers. And if you look at Jordan Love's stats over the first couple of games, 188 yards in the first game, 292 in the second. Those don't necessarily feel like those video game numbers that we love. But when you start talking about just brands and teams and the way they're built and how they're going to win, if the Packers offense is going to continue to do what it's done over 2 games, it's going to have to get efficient and great play from Jordan Love combined with efficient and great play and the best running they can get every single opportunity, right? So there is this moment from Josh Jacobs. So there's this moment for me where I'm looking at the Packers saying, yes, I think they're built in the same complementary fashion that the Eagles are built. I think if we took the logos off the helmets and we just thought about what we've seen so far this season, they have the 2 most impressive. Obviously, they're only team with 2 games, but they have 2 incredibly impressive wins. If you had told us 2 months ago that the Packers would come out and just kick the snot out of the Commanders and the Lions the first 2 weeks of the season, I think it's undeniable that to me, the Packers are the Super Bowl favorite right now. I think they're the best team in the NFC. I think they're the best complementary football team in the entire league. And I think Jordan Love, if he keeps playing this way, is going to have a real shot at an MVP season.
I don't know how you could disagree. I mean, it has just been belt to butt for 2 weeks against two teams that made playoff runs last year. So I don't know how you could disagree in the slightest. And I also do wonder how Lions fans feel waking up this morning. That obviously after you got your butt whooped last week, you felt really down. You thought, okay, maybe it was Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. You start to think, oh no, we suck again. I can understand how, Lions fans maybe felt last week of, are we really going to take that step back that everybody feared that we were going to? Today, do you feel a little bit different? Perhaps do you feel a little bit different about your football team seeing yet another quality quarterback and quality football team get beat the way that they did, just like you got beat the way that you did against the Green Bay Packers?
I think that's the beauty of week 2. Now, not everything was beautiful from last night. There's some substantial injury news that we want to get into. Number one, as we just mentioned, we get a massive injury for the Packers. Jayden Reed, broken collarbone, out 6 to 8 weeks. So that's a projection at this point. Suffered a fractured collarbone. He will go to injured reserve. Again, this is just putting more on Jordan Love, but I want to make this a big deal, Caroline. I want this to be sort of the, oh my God, the sky is falling moment. But again, I just watched them last night without Jayden for the majority of the game, obviously, go out and just handle the Commanders' defense. So part of me thinks this is a huge deal. Part of me thinks that Matt LaFleur might be one of the better coaches in the league we don't talk enough about, because no matter who his wide receivers are, he seems to find a way for production no matter where it comes from.
I still think it is a big deal because, I don't know who Green Bay has next week, but they go into that matchup. Well, is Tucker Kraft going to be able to go off for over 100 receiving yards for the first time in his career, I might add. So congratulations to him. Is he going to be able to go off like he did last night? Because now you have a defense and coaches that are able and have the time to make adjustments to what we saw last night. So I still think it is a big deal, but I do think that your point is a very fair one, that, I brought up the Eagles, star quality and star power. Well, Matt LaFleur has proven that he might not need, 2 first-round receivers to recreate the kind of offensive magic that maybe we might see with the Eagles. Matt LaFleur doesn't do that. He is an expert of making lemonade out of lemons.
Over the course of this next 6 weeks, they get the Browns, the Cowboys in the matchup we'll all be watching, the Bengals, the Cardinals, the Steelers, the Panthers. There's some winnable football games there for them. It's got 100%. Vegas. I don't think the odds are going to shift drastically in Vegas in the way they perceive the Packers over the course of this, even though they are clearly better with Jayden Reed. That's not the only massive injury from this. Austin Ekeler, friend of Yahoo Sports, obviously, and everybody loves Austin here and everywhere across the league, has a torn Achilles, it looks like. So he tore his Achilles. He's going to undergo imaging scheduled for Friday for confirmation of that. We don't know how complete the tear is. It's important to note Austin is somebody that, while he had tremendous success with the Chargers, went to the Commanders looking for a second opportunity. He's an important part of their team, but he is 30 years old at this point at the running back position. This is tough to come back from. We all talk about how it takes a couple of years if it's an Achilles. If it's a fully torn Achilles, this feels like this could be close to the end for a player that, frankly, again, we love here, and fantasy football players particularly. He's saved a lot of leagues for a lot of years, so there's a lot of love for Austin Ekeler.
Yeah, it's one thing you just absolutely hate to see. You hate to see anyone go down. And last night was an incredibly physical, rough and tumble kind of football game. So you hate to see those injuries. I wish the best for Austin Ekeler. And it begs the question, too, of what does this Commanders run game look like if Austin Ekeler and when Austin Ekeler is not part of it?